The usually fiery and uncompromising voice of Julius Malema, the commander-in-chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, took on a softer, more vulnerable tone during a recent Pan-African Parliament session that has now become the subject of conversation across the continent. Known for his confrontational politics, sharp tongue, and fearless criticism of both local and global powers, Malema surprised many when he broke down in tears while reflecting on the sacrifices of Africa's struggle icons who paved the way for freedom, independence, and dignity for Black people. The session, which was initially set up to debate regional unity and economic cooperation across Africa, turned into something far deeper when Malema took the floor. Instead of his usual political thunder, he delivered words drenched in emotion. As he began to recount the personal sacrifices of figures such as Steve Biko, Hani, Thomas Sankara, Winnie Madikizela-Mandela, Patrice Lumumba, and many others, his voice cracked. His body language shifted from his familiar defiant posture to that of a man weighed down by memory, gratitude, and grief. Too many of our leaders, he began, pausing briefly to compose himself, paid with their lives so that we may sit here in these seats, speaking freely as Africans. But sometimes I wonder, have we honored their sacrifices? Or have we allowed their blood to be spilled in vain? His voice broke, and for a moment, the chamber fell silent. Delegates from across Africa watched as Malema lowered his head, wiping away tears with his handkerchief. For a man often portrayed in the media as aggressive and unrelenting, this moment of raw vulnerability revealed another side, a deeply human one. Observers say it was a reminder that behind the political battles and fiery speeches, Malema carries the weight of history and the pain of betrayal that has often followed the dreams of Africa's heroes. He spoke tenderly of Thomas Sankara, describing him as a young lion who believed Africa could rise by its own hands, only to be gunned down by those who feared his courage. His tribute to Winnie Madikizela-Mandela was equally emotional. Mama Winnie was not just the mother of the nation, she was the shield of the oppressed. She carried a burden no human should carry, yet she never abandoned her people. And in the end, even her greatness was met with rejection and isolation. By the time he reached the name of Hani, Malema's voice was heavy with emotion. He reminded the chamber of Hani's assassination, how his death shook South Africa to its core, and how the dream of a truly free and equal society still remains unfinished. Comrades, Malema whispered, Hani's blood cries out for justice, even today. His spirit is restless, because the people he fought for still wait for the land, the dignity, the true freedom. Delegates in the chamber, many of whom are accustomed to fiery political clashes, shifted visibly in their seats. Some nodded in quiet agreement, while others were moved to tears themselves. It was not a debate, not an argument, it was a collective mourning, led by a man who, for once, dropped his political armor and allowed his humanity to take over. What struck many was the way Malema connected the struggles of the past with the realities of today. He lamented that corruption, poverty, and inequality continue to suffocate Africa, warning that the sacrifices of liberation heroes would mean nothing if leaders continued to betray their people. Our icons, he said softly, were not fighting so that a few may eat while the many starve. They did not die for empty flags and national anthems. They died for true dignity. Social media erupted soon after clips of the emotional session surfaced, with many South Africans and Africans at large expressing shock, admiration, and empathy. While some critics dismissed it as political theater, others argued that it was one of the most genuine moments of Malema's career. For many, it highlighted the deep scars that history has left on Africa's leaders and the weight that still lingers on the shoulders of a younger generation tasked with carrying forward the dream of liberation. In a political landscape often defined by confrontation, Julius Malema's tears reminded the world that the fight for freedom is not just about fiery words and radical action, it is also about grief, memory, and a longing for justice that remains unfulfilled. It was a reminder that behind every bold demand for change lies the pain of generations lost, and that even the strongest voices sometimes tremble under the weight of history. That day at the Pan-African Parliament, Malema was not just a politician. He was a grieving son of Africa, mourning her fallen heroes, carrying their dreams, and reminding the continent that liberation is not complete until the sacrifices of its struggle icons are fully honored.